What is up, everybody? It's your boy Dizig of the Dead, back with another video. So yesterday I got to see Fantastic Four First Steps. It was later in the afternoon. I'm here to do my spoiler-free review. We'll do it really quick. I'll save a spoiler review for later. Let people see the movie and sort of process my thoughts a little bit. See if I missed anything. I'll watch other reviews and whatnot. See if I missed anything. But essentially, this movie is, here's one thing I'll say. So the advertisements and the commercials pretty much give away most of the plot for this movie. So I would be hard pressed to say that there will be some light spoilers in this video. So just be warned. This is easily the best Disney Marvel movie in the last couple years. It has no clicks and whistles, no gimmicks. It's not like Deadpool and Wolverine, which to me, Deadpool and Wolverine kind of felt like it was a shitty movie with a lot of colors and, bright sounds and lights. You could argue the same thing about No Way Home because it's all about the cameos and the gimmicks. The cameos in this movie weren't like nostalgia bait because they were mostly comic book driven. They were mostly comic book characters that only comic book people would know, or even people who watch the cartoons would know, but it wasn't like nostalgia bait cameos. So it's like they didn't rely on that. They relied on actual good storytelling, actually getting the Fantastic Four right, which is something they did. You could tell that they pulled inspiration from comic books, from Jack Kirby. We even got a little bit of a Jack Kirby tribute at the end credits. And so we got a little bit of inspiration from The Incredibles, right? Which is easily, like, if you look at The Incredibles, that's how you do Fantastic Four, right? So The Incredible, that you could tell that they drew inspiration from The Incredibles, and they did a lot of montages like The Incredibles, right? The movie's not woke. It's not filled with identity politics. There's a few times where it could have easily gone down that route, and it didn't. The movie is very adamant about how traditional and based it is, which is actually kind of a surprise coming from Disney Marvel. Now, there are a few things I don't like. Right? I'll sing the praise of this movie and say you should go watch it. This is the best Disney Marvel movie I've seen in years. It's the first Disney Marvel movie post Endgame that wasn't like No Way Home or Deadpool Wolverine that I genuinely not only enjoyed but had emotional investment in. Sure, I liked Guardians of the Galaxy 3 and I had a bit of emotional investment in that movie, but that movie was so damn depressing that it just it went over my head almost, right? I was like, oh, okay, we're doing depressing shit now. No, this movie was optimistic. It was colorful like the comic books. It was, it was very based in tradition, and it had fun. For the most part, it had fun. It had good stakes, right? Galactus was an actual threat. They didn't waste Shia LaBeouf, but that's what I was going to get into is the things that I don't like. I could have done without female Silver Surfer. I could have done without her. I would have preferred Norrin Radd Silver Surfer, the Jack Kirby. Because Shia LaBeouf is a nothing burger of a character. She only exists in like 3 pages of an obscure comic book. So they just pulled her out of obscurity for identity politics reasons. And that's really the only reason why. But not to say that she was bad in the movie because, quite frankly, her character arc was pretty satisfying. Problem is, it was a bit rushed, right? Her character arc was also a bit rushed at the end, and it's a little bit icky towards the end. So I still think she was a weak part of the movie for the most part. Pedro Pascal is another thing I didn't like. Pedro Pascal has a ability to act like he's cosplaying as a character. Like Joel, for example, in The Last of Us. Pedro Pascal was good as Oberyn Martell, for example, in Game of Thrones. Pedro Pascal would be a great White Tiger. I think he would be a really good White Tiger. And he has this sort of charisma as an actor that he can pull things off, right? He can't pull off characters like Joel. He just looks like he's acting or cosplaying like Joel, but he doesn't embody the character of Joel the way the video game actor does. And you could say the exact same thing here about Reed Richards. Pedro Pascal does a good job at trying to cosplay and emulate Reed Richards but he just does not embody Reed Richards. Does that make sense? Like the writing, you could tell that whoever wrote this movie, they knew Reed Richards and they knew how to write his character the right way. And Pedro Pascal, he just can't do it, right? Like, and it's nothing against him. I mean, fuck Pedro Pascal. I think he's a piece of shit. I think he's a weirdo, but he doesn't do a bad job emulating, you know, Reed Richards, but he's just not Reed Richards. He's Reed Rodriguez, right? So whenever he has to be smart, he comes off as dumb. And whenever he has to be sort of like autistically a bit socially awkward, he fits right like a glove, right? Fits right in. And so the thing was good. He's a bit soft-spoken. He's a little bit soft-spoken in this movie. They had to tone down the testosterone on the Thing. You could tell. But for the most part, they got him right. And the same thing with Johnny Storm. They had to tone down the testosterone on Johnny Storm. He's still a womanizer, and you can still tell that he's straight, but he's not catcalling, and he's not, you know, playing James Bond and bagging hundreds of honeys around. He more so simps for Shia LaBeouf throughout most of the movie. I know that sounds a bit negative, but like for the most part, they nail the family dynamic down. They nail the sort of straight traditional based, you know, storytelling of the Fantastic Four. They don't go overboard with some of it, and you can tell that's the reason for, you know, they're being held back by identity politics for a lot of that. But the stakes of Galactus being a threat was good. The final battle felt like there was personal stakes. There was external stakes. There was a lot to really like about this movie. The CGI is still dog shit. Like, there's a moment where Galactus, when you see him for the first time in the movie, he looks fucking great, right? But when you see him come to Earth and you see the light shining on him, he looks like a PlayStation 3 character. It's not a great look. And Shia LaBeouf doesn't look good either. Her CGI looks like shit too. And they also use a CGI baby, which doesn't look too great. Yeah, the CGI is not very good in this movie. But this movie is still, like, it has this optimistic, hopeful message. Did way better than Superman did, because Superman should have done it the way this movie should have done it, or this movie did, basically. And, you know, I was concerned going into this movie that it was going to be dog shit, that it was going to be, you know, just another woke Disney Marvel disaster that was going to assassinate all the characters and completely destroy the lore. But instead, it embraced the lore. It embraced the world. It did an alternate history, which is, I think, why the reason it was so good is because it had open creative freedom to not obey the rules of the MCU by being in an alternate universe. It gave them more creative, you know, flow to actually adapt the comics, actually, you know, pay homage to the lore, right? And so the characters were not entirely assassinated, but they also weren't entirely, you know, like I think they got the characters right, and I think they got the family dynamic of the Fantastic Four right. I think they got all that right, you know? People are going to say Sue Storm is a girl boss. I think she's just being a mom. I think she's just being, you know, a mama bear, protective mother kind of thing. And people will be like, oh, this is the assassination of their characters. No, I wouldn't say so. There's some things that they need to work on, because they're still lacking they still have that vice grip of identity politics around their throats at Disney that doesn't allow them to do certain things. But for the most part, they got the family aspect right. They got the characters right. Got Galactus right. I wish Galactus was a little bit bigger. I wish he was more cosmic scale. But I didn't hate this movie, right? I actually genuinely enjoyed it, and it was kind of a pleasant surprise. So I highly recommend it. I could be wrong in a couple of days. I could think of something and be like, oh, you know what? Maybe this plot point here, you know, and do my spoiler review. But until then, I want to know what y'all guys think in the comments down below. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Let me know what y'all think. If you've seen it yet, are you going to see it? Let me know. Leave a comment down below, and I will talk to y'all in a video very soon. I genuinely like this one. Well done, Disney Marvel. Fuck Kevin Feige, though.